to election observers in multiple states being blocked from watching the ballots to poll workers on camera repeatedly scanning the same batch of ballots over and over again. Despite their best efforts, the radical Democrats left fingerprints all over the country, providing a trail of evidence that the 2020 election was not only tampered with, but was actually overthrown. Which raises even more questions about exactly how many people were involved in these efforts to undermine the election. Hundreds? Thousands? Tens of thousands? How many people does it take to carry out a coup against the presidency? And when all the dust settles from the audit in Arizona and the potential audits in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin, what happens to all these people who were responsible for overthrowing the election? What are the consequences for traitors who meddled with our sacred democratic process and tried to steal power by taking away the voices of the American people? What happens to them?
They get hung.
Well, in the past, America had a very good solution for dealing with such traitors: execution. Treason is considered the highest of all crimes and is the only crime defined in the U.S. Constitution, which states that anyone is guilty of treason if they support America's enemies. So far, there have been numerous indications that foreign governments, including China and Pakistan, meddled in our election to install Joe Biden as president. Any American involved in these efforts, from those who ran the voting machines to the very highest government officials, is guilty of treason under U.S. Code 2381, which carries with it the penalty of death. The U.S. has a wide range of laws covering treason, including sedition, insurrection, and even advocating for the overthrow of the government.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Espionage is covered too. Famously, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were convicted of aiding the Soviet Union and were sentenced to death by electrocution. The bottom line is that no one, absolutely no one, is above the law. And let this be a warning to anyone who thinks they are. The consequences are clear, and those responsible will be brought to justice for their role in undermining America's democracy. For One America News, I'm Pearson Sharp.
Exactly who stole the vote, how they stole the vote, from which computers, access to our election, to which computers they went into. So understand that cybersecurity experts that work for this country put all this in place before the election even started to make sure that they caught all of this information so that foreign adversaries were not deciding our elections.
Absolutely. And what a blessing that they were there for us to catch all this and to get all this put together, and even to have these, to be proactive. They were proactive, everybody, and this is what a blessing this is, because we came this close to never knowing. And this is actually a miracle that we have all this, Barry, and this is amazing. And now we have with us General McInerney, who is going to give us a perspective on what we just seen. General, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thanks for what you're doing for this great nation. This is vitally important. You have just seen the most massive cyber warfare attack in the history of mankind. Now, the founding fathers did not know anything about cyber warfare, but we do. And that's the important thing. You have seen just how it was orchestrated against our election system. And I took an oath of office 60-some years ago as a plebe on the plains of West Point to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We now are seeing the largest domestic enemy we have in our history, and people must understand that. What happened? You spelled it out. It was driven by China, and they used a system that we have had, because only that system could modulate and coordinate the many simultaneous attacks that they used against us. Now, why this is so important is because our military, which I spent 35 years in the Air Force and ended up as the number 3 man in the Air Staff, as well as heading up Vice President Gore's reinventing government for the entire Department of Defense, those two jobs simultaneously, we now are faced with something our military has never seen before, nor have the American people. We are going against globalists who are not interested in America. They are interested in us becoming a socialist, communist state. They talk about progressivism, but progressivism is just the front door to communism. They want a global communist world. And you must understand that, America. It's so important. And it's so important that President Trump, who won 79 million votes in the election to 68 million for Biden, because we have, and you've seen those exact numbers, he dominated. It was an awesome victory. And yet they turned it around, foreigners. And we have not had one audit. This is the closest thing to an audit that has been conducted in America on this important election. The American people must understand what we are facing today, and that's why all of us here that you're seeing in this program are so focused. I could not understand was that the legislatures, the judicial, and the executive, meaning the FBI, the Department of Justice, the intelligence community, have failed us with deep staters. They did not report this. This was the most massive cyber warfare attack. So did Cyber Command, did the National Security Agency, did the CIA, did the Department of Justice, the FBI report this? No.
Well, General, to put this in perspective then, you're 100% that this was the biggest cyber attack in the world, in world history, correct?
That's correct.
Wow. Well, thank you. And we're going to see, I was telling everyone, General, when this is all revealed, it's going to be a great uniter of all people in our country, and we're going to be in the greatest revival ever to bring our country back to one nation under God. Thank you.
Well, God bless you for what you're doing, Mike. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, General.
What you're watching is the surveillance system. In fact, this is the very surveillance system that was built by people inside this country within the cybersecurity battle space that built some of this built some of these tools that were built to keep this country safe. But what you're watching is that every line on that drawing, all those moving lines, they represent the IP addresses of what I just showed you on the chart. So when you understand the hacker's IP address and the IP address of the target and the votes that were stolen, every one of those lines that you're watching move across the chart and showing whether they were successful and how many votes they stole, that documents that. Every red line, as they turn red, as they finish stealing the vote, basically, the red lines are all China. So what you're seeing are the actual files being received and sent. That's a documentation of the real-time theft of our elections.
Wow.
So every line on the map, there's a corresponding line on the sheet. And the color and the line types represent the severity of the attack.
One, it's not a hoax. What's happening now, and the reason I couldn't come on the Alex Jones show last night was I was not given the permission that I needed to in order to say what I'm about to say now. I do not work for the federal government. I'm not paid by them. Let me just say again what I said in 2016. There are honorable members of our intelligence, military, and civilian community in the government who understood exactly how corrupt Biden and the Democratic machinery is, was, and will be. This is really a sting operation, contrary to what everybody else said. Trump knew this was happening. Eric knew this was happening and warned the public. I knew this was happening. However, I could not say anything about it. What happened was we watermarked every ballot with what's called the QFS blockchain encryption code. In other words, we know pretty well where every ballot is, where it went, and who has it. So this is not a stolen election. On the contrary, we reversed the entire game of war along the lines of Sun Tzu, the art of war. And Trump was brilliant and still is brilliant at it. The reason he hasn't been seen, and Alex correctly said, oh, I haven't seen him in several days. Well, in the art of the war, you pull back, allow your enemy to make all the mistakes that they are making, manipulate the situation, expose them, and then come in for the final killing. And that's what's happening now. None of this was unexpected. All of this was expected. All of this is part of the sting operation we're running. And let me tell you that 48 hours ago, not only did we put markers on those ballots, but I can say now, with the permission of people in the intelligence community and elsewhere, that we have sent out thousands and thousands of National Guards to 12 different states, Washington, Delaware, Texas, Arizona, Alabama, and everywhere. So now you have to consider and rethink what this is really about. The genius of Trump is that he is able to pull back at any point and manipulate the opponent without the opponent ever realizing. He has said repeatedly, hashtag steal the vote. That's exactly what he has said for months. Then he made a very clear implication. He said, I will use common sense or my intelligence, i.e. both literal and figurative intelligence. And those of us in the intelligence community, be it who they are, again, what I said in 2016, when we exposed Hillary Clinton, we now exposed, and it was Trump who initiated this, Biden family. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Jim Biden, Frank, the whole family was played right into a game where they were convicted, and you're seeing what's happening now. What was not announced was that we watermarked all the ballots with what I said, QFS blockchain, which is a very hard encryption code to break. And the second thing is we sent, probably 20,000 or more, our National Guards 48 hours ago. None of it was reported, and I thank the press for not reporting it and others. So what in fact is happening is you're seeing a sophisticated sting operation that was initiated by Trump. I'm just a lowly peasant in this game. And honestly, I was informed that I could say something about it today, only last night. That's why I could not come on.
Well,
This is the reverse of what you guys have been thinking. It's not a civil war. We have not been surprised in any way. This has been a setup by Trump for a long, long time. In the same way that we knew about Hillary Clinton, I warned about the coup that we would do a counter coup, and this is our counter coup again against the Bidens. And that's exactly what we expected. The corruption in the mail, the corruption in USPS, corruption with the Democrats, everywhere and anywhere. There was no surprise here. And that's why we deployed National Guard soldiers to 12 different states.
Well,
Nothing was said about it.
Steve, you've just broken certainly perhaps the biggest news since the election here on this show. I have to play this out logically in my head. Our arrests.
That's why I go on your show to basically, I keep.
Well, I love you, Steve. I'd kiss you on the lips right now if it wasn't digitally.
Yeah.
But
there's too many people watching us.
We're open like that. We're tolerant. But Steve, following your logic here, I mean, are arrests inevitably coming down the road?
Yeah. They're coming not just down the road, they're being implemented. What you saw Corey Lewandowski and Pam Biondi saying when they were in Clay County and as well in Philadelphia, that was not just a threat. That was exactly what's going to happen. People will be arrested as of tonight, tomorrow, and it will go on for quite a while. And this was a total sting operation that I can say.
So explain
anybody else. I have the permission to say it. I do not deal with classified information. As you know, I do not work for our government, but because I'm loyal to the Republic, and I work with a lot of people who are loyal to this Republic, including the 16 intelligence services, the Secret Service, our civilian service, they've all been great, and they've kept it quiet. And I've been given the permission to say what I just said. I have nothing more to say, but this is not a surprise here. This is the biggest sting operation probably in our country that we've ever had.
Well, and it would be the genius of Trump. But Steve, I got to ask in the last minute 45 here to kind of hone in. So how is this watermark on the ballots? What is the significance of that as to, is it going to stop from fake ballots being counted, or how is that going to be used?
Well, we use it in any way that we need to use it in terms of counting, knowing which ones were fake, which ones were not. It's a very sophisticated code. So if you just throw them away, these are cyber communication implementations that we have the code for. We know exactly what was thrown away. We know exactly what was placed. We know exactly who has it, and we know exactly where it went. I can't go any further than that.
Wow, this is huge news that Steve Pieczenik is breaking on our show right now. For me to reiterate, I guess in my own words, President Trump and his administration and friendlies inside the White House in D.C. have launched a sting operation knowing this Democrat fraud was coming.
I was looking at Biden's inauguration again, and I noticed none of the military had any ranks or honors on their jackets. So I decided to go back and look at other past inaugurations, and I noticed Bush, they had their ranks on their jackets. I looked at Obama. This isn't actually the inauguration, but it is a laying of the wreath. For some reason, the video wouldn't edit that I found for Obama's inauguration. But you can see here, they all have their military rank on their jackets. And the next one you'll see with Trump. Trump has his. And I want you to notice, too, that all three of them were able to touch the wreath and kind of push it back on the stand. But I want you to notice Biden's on what happens with his here, because his is different. Because remember, there's no military rank on any of the jackets anywhere. You can't find them. And you're going to see he doesn't walk down the steps. He walks out from the left if you're facing the tomb, which is weird. So you see there's no military ranking on any military officer there. They don't get to touch the wreath for some reason. They have to walk up to it and do this awkward, hey buddy, how you doing, kind of thing. And then they stand there, look at it, and then they turn around and walk back. So why? I also want to point out that they did the 21 gun salute with 2 guns actually at the cemetery when he arrived to the tomb of the unknown soldier. And then you got these 3 knuckleheads that showed up for some reason, which is weird too. And they showed up way before the family did, because you can see the family walking in. But I figured out why they did the 1 and 22 seconds of silence or awkwardness from my last video. It was because they were supposed to do the 21 gun salute after the president got sworn in. This is Trump's 21 gun salute. directly after he got sworn into office as president. Now you can go back and you can find videos where you can hear Obama's going off, you can hear Bush's going off, but Biden didn't do it for some reason, and the military didn't have their honors on or their ranks, and it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now, I want to read this about the 21-gun salute. It says, in accordance with the ceremonial standard operating procedure of the 3rd U.S. Infantry, i.e. the Old Guard, the various gun salutes are assigned as follows. Each round in a given salute is fired one at a time. The number of cannon used in a battery depends upon the intervals between each round fired. Now, I want you to notice that Trump had 4 cannons firing. Now, the military code says they want an odd number firing, so this isn't all that awkward with 4 of them firing. But I want you to look back at Biden's inauguration when they're laying the wreath and he's pulling up, that there's 3 cannons there. 2 are actually firing every 6 seconds, which will bring it to 2 minutes and 6 seconds by the time it's all done. Now, this is interesting here. A 3-gun battery firing 2 of its guns with 5-second intervals between rounds and 1 gun remaining at the ready in case of a misfire. Such a battery would be used at an armed forces full honors funeral or for a state arrival ceremony of a foreign dignitary at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. So they were firing 2 guns, that is right on with this, for a arrival of a foreign dignitary. What's up with that? I think you can figure that out now, can't you?
When foreign interests blatantly steal a U.S. election and seize control of the executive branch, they have no choice but to attack the nation on all fronts. And they are. While law-abiding citizens organize for the next election, the new Democrat Party is waging their own modern-day version of a communist revolution. And that means eliminating the opposition. The mainstream media is no longer effective. The masses are beginning to awaken from the brainwashed trance. And those that aren't are risking their lives with the dangerous experimental jab. Next comes starvation. Known as the Holodomor, which means to kill by starvation, the Soviet communists destroyed the Ukrainian independence movement by starving millions to death. The party declared that food is a weapon, then took control of the people's food, restricted their movement, and refused them aid, killing millions in less than 2 years. We can see this in play again today, under the guise of environmentalism. Right after they stole the election, the Colonial Pipeline and JBS Meat was attacked by hackers, raising gas prices and wiping out nearly 20% of America's beef production. And you can expect the airlines to be attacked next, just like in India. California is now being subjected to a man-made water shortage. In only 2 weeks' time, 90% of their fresh water was dumped into the ocean. The reason? To potentially save 1,000 salmon a year. Depleting their once ample reserves, residents are now being warned that they will soon be limited to only 7 gallons a day. And behind the scenes, the Fed is printing money at breakneck speed, pushing the U.S. economy into unsustainable levels of overinflation. They have waged war against the citizens of this country. And if you dare suggest we fight back, the media will label you a traitor. And now they are poised to openly arrest and eliminate all American patriots. The enemy-occupied White House has unveiled a de facto plan to aggressively go after what they call domestic terrorism. And that means any patriotic American who still defends the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. And they want the brainwashed masses to turn us in like criminals. A recent bombshell report has revealed how federal agents were responsible for staging the so-called insurrection on the U.S. Capitol, setting up patriots like they've been doing for decades. The unlawful U.S. government is already holding hundreds of political prisoners in solitary confinement, like terrorists, for doing nothing more than exercising their First Amendment rights. They know that there will no longer be any fair elections in this country, and so their only option is total annihilation. Liberty or death, this is where we are today. For Infowars.com, this is Greg Reese.
News right now. Do we have public servants in office who are acting as elected officials without swearing in allegiance to the Constitution? A writ of quo warranto has been filed in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., stating that numerous oaths of office cannot be found on file for many of our federal public officials, including Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. Also on the list of missing oaths of office include the CDC Director, Rochelle Walensky, Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm, the FDA Commissioner, Janet Woodcock, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Xavier Becerra, Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cadorna, Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and the Commissioner of the FDA, Robert Califf, Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh, Deputy Secretary of Labor, Julie Su, and the remedy sought for those individuals who have failed or refused to produce an affidavit as required by 5 U.S. Code, subsection 3332, demand that those persons provide the U.S. Attorney and the court in Washington, D.C. with the compulsory affidavit within 10 days. For those individuals who do not produce the affidavit within the 10 days and who have admitted that they do not possess the requisite affidavit, and those who have produced defective affidavits, they must immediately terminate their appointments or positions, render all official acts, bills, laws, regulations, or any official actions whatsoever, including the appointment of any subordinates, void ab initio, as well as replace and restore all proper and former office holders until competent replacements can be lawfully appointed. In order to be effective as a sworn declaration, it must either be sworn before a notary public or sworn under penalty of perjury per 18 U.S. Code subsection 1746. Once again, the issue before the U.S. Attorney is straightforward. Petitioner has sought the required affidavits prescribed in 5 U.S. Code subsection 3332 from all appointees referenced via the Freedom of Information Act, and this request and not one of the aforementioned appointees have produced a compliant affidavit consistent with applicable statutes. Either the affidavits are non-existent, wanting, defective, or the appointee has failed or refuses to provide the mandated affidavit to hold their respective offices. Follow rightnow.news and at Ann Vandersteel on CloutHub, Twitter, Truth, and Getter for more on this story as it develops.
You guys, I just finished a show. Look at the room that they put me in. We're in Biden's fake Oval Office, everybody. And I've actually figured this out. I now know why. I now get it. Turn the camera around. There is a screen, teleprompter to the face. All I can say is the last administration was a disgrace.
And that's what this is all about.
Secret Service said they have dissuaded him from coming to Capitol Hill. They told him they don't have the resources to protect him here. So at the moment he is not coming, but that could
Check. Oh, he comes. I want to punch him out. This is
Oh,
my
no,
moment.
I would pay to see
I've
that.
been waiting for this, for trespassing on the Capitol grounds. I want to punch him out, and I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to be happy.
Look, this is a scorecard from Joseph Goebbels. If you tell a lie big enough, and that's what they're doing. And you see Pelosi, you see Schumer. Ann just told me that Pelosi called the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, and they're trying to get him out on the 25th Amendment or to impeach him. Why? Well, because on Wednesday, they took Pelosi's laptop. She's frantic. There were some people in there that were special forces mixed with Antifa, and they took her laptop and they have that data.
We're not here to be Antifa.
Because they have that data. I believe they also have a source that is talking like a songbird. And the president is going to spring that person on us, so it will completely change, because it is someone that has said, I'm not going to do this. This is treason. Remember, this is treason, high treason.
Sir, could he use the emergency broadcast system or emergency action message to communicate
Did you see yesterday that an email went around telling everybody about the emergency broadcast system? So there are those little signals that you see. You see that what I saw was the September 18th or 19th Executive Order 2018 that if foreigners were involved in the U.S. election, the president could declare an emergency. That means he knew back 2 years ago. Yeah, right. And that's why it's just all come together that COVID-19 was a biological attack. Let's not say it was an accident and it slipped out of a food market or anything. We're not that naive anymore.
Nancy.
Hi.
Prison time's coming soon. Be ready. Donald Trump. Not much time left. Bad news for you.
Vast right-wing conspiracy.
Campaign says she left the event early after feeling overheated.
to go after anybody that he thinks in his wisdom is a threat, right? You sign the oath says you promise to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And he said, I think I'll start with domestic. Bring me the Army. Now, I used to like President Clinton. I once said only he and Ronald Reagan were the great presidents since World War II. But I've had a change of heart, and I think he needs to go away for a long time. And I'm not going to execute him, although I could, under the Supreme Court's ruling. But I think I'll just send him to the Colorado Supermax for the rest of his life. So I've already got a petition ready. I want him to transfer me to Guantanamo. Because when you're 78, you're a lot more worried about it being too cold than being too hot.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.